Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over some different options for interior wall finishes in a workshop or a garage. And it's coming up right now. So if you've been following along on the shop build videos, you've noticed that I've used some different types of wall coverings here in the wood shop and over in the fab shop. So what I'd like to do for you is run down a list of interior wall finishing options and include some pros and cons and do a price breakdown to help you decide what would be best for your shop. Well, let's start with drywall. So the pros of drywall are that it's really easy to install the sheets themselves. They're pretty forgiving, they're easy to cut, and they go up pretty fast. If you have any gaps or a mistake, it's easy to fix with some tape and some drywall mud. It's also then, paintable to whatever color you want to choose for your shop. And it's also the least expensive. So drywall, depending on whether you use like 5/8 for a ceiling or 1/2 inch on the walls, runs you around 30 cents a square foot. I use 5/8 inch drywall here in the ceiling in my shops, and I used 1/2 inch drywall on this wall and on the north wall over here. And that's because these walls are mostly going to be filled up with cabinets on both of those sides, and here behind the radial arm saw I'm not really going to be hanging anything, so I thought it'd be just quick and easy and cheaper to use drywall here. So some of the cons of using drywall though are that it is easily damaged, especially in a shop environment where you might be swinging around 10-foot long boards or heavy objects or something awkwardly shaped. They can ding it or dent it or even crack a hole right through the wall pretty easily compared to other materials. The other con is that finishing drywall for me is not very fun at all. I've done quite a bit of it over the last 30 years being a builder and building several houses for myself. I did a lot of my own drywall work. And I can say that finally this last time around when I finished this drywall here, I finally got what I would call a professional finish on it. So there's a butt joint right here in the center of this wall, and then there's right about here, there's a seam all the way across, and looking at this wall, it is perfectly flat and looks good. Now for most do-it-yourselfers though, that can be a daunting task to tackle a drywall project and get it to look perfect. But because it's a workshop or a garage, it's a good place to practice your drywall skills. So for me, the two things this time around that really helped up my game on drywall is on the ceiling, I did what's called a knockdown stomp. And I have a video that I'll link in the description. And it was really easy to just put a couple coats, tape coat and another coat on, and then go over it doing the stomp and the knockdown. I didn't have to sand anything on the ceiling at all, and I think it turned out spectacular. It looks really good. And then the other tip I have for getting a really nice flat finish on walls is to use something called FibaFuse. I use that instead of paper tape because for me, paper tape, I always seem to get little air pockets in it. And then you have to go back and cut those out and everything. This FibaFuse is made out of fiberglass, and you can just put it on in a light bed and then put more drywall mud over top of it, and it works great. It doesn't bubble up. And for me, and taking my time finishing it, that turned out to be the best process to get a good finish. So at about 26 to 33 cents a square foot for the drywall sheets, and then to buy the tape and the mud and the screws and all of that, in order to do a typical 24 by 24 foot garage with 10-foot walls would cost you just over $500, $500 to $600 just for the materials, and a little bit more than that for your paint and your primer. And that's with the homeowner doing it themselves. So that's going to be the cheapest option for that typical 2-car garage. So option number 2 is using OSB for your wall finishing. And that's what I did here in this garage. So a while back, when I remodeled my in-laws' house, I moved this garage that was attached to their house back here to the back of the property. And for quite a while, I used this as my wood shop, and you might recognize this from some of my older woodworking videos. So what I did when I finished this is I just used OSB, 1/2 inch OSB on the ceiling and on the walls. And the pros to using OSB is that it is relatively inexpensive. It's the next least expensive option at about 80 to 90 cents a square foot to buy the OSB sheets themselves. So OSB is one of those lumber commodities that fluctuates in price quite a bit, you know, depending on the season, whether or not there's been a lot of hurricanes, and other factors. So OSB, when I did this, was probably about $5 a sheet, where now it's like maybe $25 a sheet. So that price can really vary depending on the season, time of the year, whether or not there's any hurricanes, and that kind of stuff, supply and demand. So to finish these walls though, I mean, it just takes your sheets of OSB, some drywall screws, and some primer and paint. So the other advantage to using OSB is that it makes a great substrate for just, you know, if you want to decorate the walls like my father-in-law has here now with all these items, you can just easily just screw or nail right into that OSB and it holds your stuff just fine, compared to drywall where you might have to put an anchor in. So now the cons for OSB is that, you know, it doesn't give a perfect finish. You can see all the different little strands of wood in there, little gaps and cracks and stuff like that. So, you know, it's not going to be a perfect finish, but it still, I think, could look nice, especially for a workshop or a garage. And for this particular garage, which is 24 by 24 and it's got 10-foot ceiling, so this is the average size garage I'm trying to give a price comparison on. It would cost, in today's prices, about $1,200 to finish the ceiling and walls in OSB. So option 3 on the list is using plywood. Now you can see here in my fab shop I use what's called BCX, and it's sanded on one side, so this is the B side, and it has a pretty smooth finish. And I ended up staining it, and I used this all the way around the whole shop on 3 walls except for one wall, which is drywall. And I really like this because you can screw, you know, anything right to it. You don't necessarily have to hit a stud depending on how heavy it is. And I really like the look of it. So for me, those are the pros. The cons are it gets to be pretty pricey. One sheet of this BCX plywood is $35 right now. And those prices do vary somewhat too, like OSB does. The other con is when you have a lot of receptacles to cut in, it can be a little bit difficult to find that box and mark it and cut it out. So that's a little bit tougher than, say, drywall, where you would just put your sheet up and run a roto zip around that box. So at $35 a sheet, that puts plywood at about $1.10 or so per square foot. Now to do that same 24 by 24 garage would now cost you upwards of like $1,500 to $1,600 for the plywood, screws, and gallon of stain to finish it. Hey, as we're going through these, I hope you're finding value, and if you do, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up button, because that'll help YouTube spread this video out to many other people so that they can also find some value in it. For me, this BCX plywood is my favorite finishing, because I wanted to get, especially in this shop, which I call my fab shop, which I'm going to have a welding bench here and stuff, and doing a lot of like the metal fabrication and working on vehicles and that sort of thing. But I wanted it to have like an old industrial shop type feel to it. And I think that dark stained plywood does that. And as you can see, I got this cabinet build that I'm working on right now. There'll be some videos of these coming up soon too. So if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, it'd be a good opportunity to do so right now and hit that notification bell so when these videos come out, you could be first ones to see them. So the fourth option is to use steel barn siding on your ceiling and your walls in your shop. Here I'm on the outside, I'm in my lean-to outside of the shop, and I use it on the whole exterior of my barn. But a lot of people like to use it on the interior, and you'll see, I'll leave a link for Kyle over at R&R Buildings. They build many different pole barns, and they most of the time they use steel for interior finishes. So I'll leave a link for one of his videos so you can check that out. The pros for this is it goes up quick and easy. It's already pre-finished, and you know, it looks pretty nice. I didn't want that kind of tinny metallic sound to be in my shop, because I'm going to be doing a lot of filming in my shop, and I wanted more of a softer look and softer sound both in the shop. But some of the cons to this stuff is, like I just mentioned, that you kind of feels like you're inside a refrigerator to me. The other thing is that to trim everything out, you got to buy all the extra J channels and other pieces and parts like that, which sometimes are special orders, so if you don't have everything just right, you're going to have to go back and order the rest of your pieces and wait on them to come in before you can finish your project. But other than that, I think it's a really good option, and a lot of people like to do it. So the cost of this is roughly about $1 a square foot, and to do that same 24 by 24 garage would be roughly, again, about the $1,500 to $1,600, because in addition to that, siding itself, boy, those geese are loud. So in addition to that siding itself, then you have all those trim pieces, which can add up, and the screws too. You have to get the special colored screws to match, which can also add to the. Okay, so option 5 is what's called a slat wall. And you know, the big box stores sell this melamine coated paneling that has T-slots built into it, so that you can use all these different accessories that slide into those T-slots. So that stuff is pre-finished, or you could buy it, or you could paint it also. And you could even line all your walls in your shop with that material, and that way you have many different options of where you want to hang stuff. So really, that flexibility is its biggest pro. So that slat wall with the white finish could be about the same price as doing a plywood finish, only you'd probably want to do drywall on your ceiling in that case. So if you did that 24 by 24 garage with the drywall ceiling and the slat wall all the way around, it would actually be a little bit cheaper than what it would cost to do the plywood all the way around and on the ceiling. So you're looking at maybe $1,400 to do that same project. So that can be a great option if you like that nice, clean, bright, sleek look, and you want the versatility to be able to you know, put all those different types of hangers and tool holders. You can hang, you know, bike hangers from it. Cabinetry you can get that slips right into those T-slots, and it'd be a great option. Okay, here's one bonus option, I guess. So this is the only unfinished wall I have in my shop right now. It is just bare drywall, and the reason for that is because I'm going to finish this with plywood strips. I'm going to stain different colors, and I've done this in our house for my son's bedroom. We did one accent wall that same way, and I'll leave that link to that video up in a card and also in the description. So, and the reason why I put drywall on first is because that plywood strip, I use just 3/8 plywood, so it's quite a bit cheaper to do, and having the drywall behind it makes installation easy, and then there's no bowing in between studs or anything like that. That can give you a nice accent wall if you want to do something different on a different wall in your shop. And actually, you can see here above my workbench in the wood shop, I have that same look. So hopefully this video gave you some ideas to help you choose. And if you would, let me know in the comments what option you did choose for your interior wall finishing. And if there's something that I missed or some other different alternative wall covering, let me know that too. So I really appreciate you watching, and up here in this card there's going to be a link to the full playlist for the shop build, and down in this card down here is another video that YouTube thinks that you want to watch. So I will see you in the next one. What do you call it, Maria? That doesn't make any sense, Maria. Start over.
You get out of breath because I just talk without taking a breath.